Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for agreeing to do this interview with
Thank
me.
you for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it to the first question.
Okay.
So, beyond the fabulous writer you are, who is Victoria Christopher Murray?
That's a good question. If I had to describe Victoria Christopher Murray, I would say she is a woman who loves God, her family, and her friends. And that really just sums it up for me because my life is all about people. But first, I'm a very spiritual person, and I think that allows me to really love my family. I have a daughter. My husband passed away many years ago, but I have a 24-year-old daughter. My mom is still alive. My dad passed away a few years ago, but they were married for 51 years. I have two sisters, and they have their families. So and I adore my friends. You saw me with Rashonda Tate Billings, and she's one of my dearest friends.
Wow.
So I'm a woman that loves God, my family, and my friends.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. All right. Number two. This might be my personal opinion, but I think other people out there will agree with me. You're basically like the Shonda Rhimes of Christian novel writing. And so I can't imagine the novel world without you. But if you weren't a writer, what would you have done with your life?
I would have taught writing if I could. But before I became a writer, I spent about 12 years in corporate America. I have my MBA. And so I was in the corporate world. I have my MBA in marketing, so I went into what's called consumer packaged goods marketing.
Oh, wow.
And I was a product manager on stovetop stuffing mix and minute rice. That was what I was doing, what I thought I was supposed to do. I always say when you're 17 and you go to college, you do what you think you're supposed to do, and then you turn 40 and you do what you want to do. But if I were not a writer, I'd be teaching writing. I love writing. I love everything about writing. I love the craft. I love the putting together of 2 words and 3 and 4 words to make a sentence. I'm absolutely amazed. I'm in the middle of writing a book now, and I'm absolutely amazed. I have about a third of it done. That in a couple of months, I will have a full book done with words that are on paper that make sense for other people to enjoy. So that's what I would be doing. Anything that has to do with words and writing and teaching.
I love that. I love that. So, how much of yourself do you weave into your characters?
Not at all. Really writing is a gift. It's a complete gift that I know came from God. And so God would never give me the gift incompletely. So everything from the character development to the story ideas to the discipline to do it, everything he gave it to me completely. So I make up these people. When people say where do they come from, I don't think you can write without your environment being part of the story. I don't think you can. Because whether it's something I saw on television, whether it's something that's ripped from the headlines, whether it's something from my past, I don't think any writer writes in a vacuum outside of their life experiences. But most of it I just make up. I really do.
So, not even a little bit, not just.
There was only one character in the X-Files.
Okay, do you mind sharing which one it was?
It was Vanessa,
okay.
Whose husband committed suicide because my husband committed suicide.
Okay.
And it was the only time that I ever put anything from my life in there. But it was so interesting because I made that character so different from me so that people wouldn't... I wanted her grief, but I didn't want the character to be me. And then the book I just wrote, Never Say Never, I know the grief of the loss of a spouse. So anytime I write about grief of the loss of a husband or a father, I'm writing from a place of truth. It's not the characters that are me, it's the emotion that's me. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, that brings up a really good point, and I'm going to go a little bit off script here for my own personal sake. But for example, I've heard that a lot of comedians... that they're able to tell these great jokes because it really comes from a place of pain.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's very similar when it comes to writing?
No, because I don't have a lot of pain in my life. The greatest pain I have is I always tell people my name is Victoria Christopher Murray. And I lost the man who gave me the name Christopher and the man who gave me the name Murray. So sometimes I feel it's just Victoria. But those are natural. My husband's death wasn't natural, but those are natural progressions of life. And I don't believe in grief. And what I mean by that is that the Bible even says there's a time to mourn and a time to dance. And so I didn't spend a lot of time in mourning. From the time that I found out about my dad passing away, and my dad just died suddenly, and I was a daddy's girl, the firstborn and everything. But from the time I found out about my dad's death and my husband's death, I was already into a mode of healing. From the moment you hear, it's like a baby being born. From the time a baby leaves the mother's body, from that point forward, they're growing toward independence. From that point, because 6 months from that point, that baby's not going to need the mother as much as it did. And so from the moment I heard of both of their, I knew I was growing and healing, and I didn't plan on staying in mourning. So there's not been a lot of pain in my life beyond that. And so I really just write I write from a place of truth. So whether the truth that I'm writing about is pain, whether the truth I'm writing about is something funny, whether the truth I'm writing about is something agonizing, I think fiction is 90% imagination and 10% truth.
Okay, that was good. How do you feel about the title Christian author?
Oh, that's a really good question. Can you imagine? You know I must have some challenges with it, right?
Yes.
When I first wrote my first novel, Temptation, I just wrote my truth. I wrote about this young hip couple and everything, and they just happened to love God because that was my truth. And so when I went to sell it, I had no idea that it was Christian fiction. I had never read a Christian fiction book. I thought I was just writing. I thought I was writing Waiting to Exhale or something. You know, I thought that's what I was writing. And when I took it to an agent, and she said, "Oh my God, there's no other book like this out here." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "There's no other book that is so filled with drama and has God in the middle." And so when she went to sell it, she went to the mainstream publishers first. And the mainstream publisher said, "Oh no, that has too much God. We don't want that." And then the Christian publisher said, "Oh, that has too much sex. We don't want that." Oh yeah. Even today, you'd be hard pressed to find me in a Christian bookstore. They think I have too much sex, it's too real. The people are not. I have such flawed characters. They're so flawed. So it's been a hard label to wear. What I love about that, I love that when I walk in a room, you know exactly who I am. You know exactly who I love. But what I don't like about that genre or writing in that genre is that the expectations, when people hear that, they don't expect to see sex in a book, or they don't expect to see such flawed characters. And so it's a very hard label. I get in trouble, but I only get in trouble with Christians. I told my pastor that heathens love me. Christians I get in trouble with. She said, "Oh, don't worry, that's what happened with Jesus." Right. You know. So it's a hard label to wear, but I was the first one. And God did it that way for some purpose. And nobody wanted to touch my book. And 2 years later, Time Warner gave me a 4-book contract, and then I've been with Simon & Schuster ever since, and I have over 20 books with them. So I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but it's a hard label. I think in a way it's also limited me. I think when people hear it, because I can't tell you, Tasha, the number of people who have read my books and they go, "Oh my God, I had this book on my shelf forever, and I heard it was Christian, I didn't want to," and then they go back and read all my other books. So I just write it, and I just hope that the people who read it will tell other people about it and won't say Christian. Just say this is a good book.
Do you ever find that you come across people who read your book and go, you know, your book really changed my life, or this character was totally me, or are you watching me from some bush? Or do you get that a lot?
A lot.
Okay.
And of people saying, you know, "Are you talking about my first lady, or are you talking about my mom? This is my life. This is totally for me." One of the best stories was, I don't know, have you ever read Joy? Joy is my second novel.
No.
I'm a Delta, and at one of my conventions, one of my sorors came up to me and said, "I read your book. Your book totally changed my life." And I was like, oh, that's nice, you know. 'Cause and so she said, stay here for a minute. One of our other friends really is going to want to meet you.
Okay.
So she brought her back, and the other friend said to me, "Oh my God, did she tell you how Joy changed your life?" I said, she said she became saved after she read your book."
Really?
I was like, at that point, that's it. You don't have to do anything else after that. So I've had that experience twice now.
Wow.
And that's made all the difference in the world.
I mean, you've already said it a couple of times, but I'm just going to ask you directly. Do you find this work fulfilling?
I find it fulfilling. It's more challenging than I ever knew. It's totally fulfilling because this was like what I was born to do. So there's nothing like walking in your purpose and knowing you're walking in your purpose. And every day there are signs, and God gives you signs, and the readers give you signs that you're walking in your purpose. If I had a very, very, very successful financial services business before I became a writer. And so my husband and I sold it so that I could write full time, because my husband used to say, everything Victoria touches turns to gold. So we just thought that there would be all this money and everything, and there's not. There's just not. And so it's so little, or compared to what I used to have, it's so much less than what I earned when I had my own business, that if I knew that it was this little, I may not have done it. And so now I know I got this. I want you to see into the future, because I know this is what he wants me to do. But if I could have seen into the future and saw how much money was here versus over there, I would say right over there. I would have minded my business. And so it's a lot tougher. It's a lot tougher than I thought it would be. But in today's times, very few African Americans are getting new contracts. And I still have a contract, and I'm going to still have a contract. And so I'm blessed. Wow. And so I'll take the blessings instead of complaining about the other side.
Got you. Okay. Now let's get to Jasmine. I truly believe in the motto, hurt people hurt. How were you able to explain such a complex character? Because personally for me, I started off hating Jasmine, and then I found myself going, "Aw, okay, I get it. I get why you do."
She grew, didn't she?
Yes.
When I first wrote her, I wrote her in Temptation, which was my first novel, and she was a secondary character.
Yeah.
She was only put in there to create havoc with Kyla and Jefferson. She didn't even really have, and after I wrote Temptation, people started writing me saying, "Whatever happened to Jasmine?" And I was like, first of all, she's not real, so I don't know what happened to her. And I did not want to ever do sequels, because I just felt that there was so many new characters inside of me. I never wanted to do sequels.
Okay.
And then two things happened. Elon Harris is a very good friend of mine, and he said to me when I had written my fourth book, he said, "You know what, Vicki, you need to have a franchise character." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he's like, sequels and things, because then people will run and want to know more about this character. So I said to Elon, I'm at his house in Houston, Victoria, said to Elon, "Well, I'm on a much higher plane than that, and I'm supposed to be writing at a much different level." And he looked at me, and he's like, "Okay, well, you can either come to my level, or you can just stay down here." So we were really good friends at the same time, because I don't even know what I was thinking to say all of that to him. So, but I didn't agree with him. And then I come up with my characters my storylines first. And then I develop characters to tell the story. So I came up with this storyline for A Sin and a Shame. And I wanted this woman who was going to meet a pastor, but she was going to really be pregnant, and then she was going to try to pass off the baby. And so I had a great storyline, and then I needed a character to tell the story. And I said, okay, so I got to develop a skank, kind of. And I was like, wait a minute, I already got one. And that's how it came. So it was really like Elon in the back of my head. And then I had this great storyline where Jasmine could slip right in. And so I was only going to do A Sin and a Shame. And then I said, okay, let me make it a trilogy. Then I did Too Little, Too Late. And then the publisher said to me, your Jasmine sales are taking off. And they gave me the biggest book deal I've had ever, since then and before then, to write 2 Jasmine books. And so that's how Lady Jasmine and Sins of the Mother came about.
Okay. I love this. Okay, so what is the book publishing process like? I mean, from an idea from 3 a.m. from 3 a.m. in the morning to like book signings. Kind of walk me through that.
Well, like now, I'm going to be heading up to. I don't know why I'm going to have this glass of wine because I have a deadline. I have a book that was due no October 1st,
Okay.
and so I'm way behind. I only have about a third of it done. I try to use every moment to write. And all I have to do is write the book. The publisher, Simon and Schuster, does the book cover. They do all the production work of it. And so all I have to do is write it, and then of course I'm still involved in the editing and the copy, the proofreading and all of that. But they put it together, and then I'm still blessed because I'm still going on book tours and things like that. So it's really a two-part process. It's the creative process, which just me and the characters and the computer, and really good friends like Rashonda, who I could talk an idea out with. In fact, the book I'm working on now, Rashonda had me change 1/3 of the book. After talking it out with her, I changed 1/3 of the book. And I think every writer needs that. She talks out her ideas, I talk out ideas with her. So there's the creative side, where it's really just you and these characters, and I write on an iPad now. And then there's the production process that's mostly the publisher.
Okay.
They do all of that.
Okay.
And then there's the last part with the touring, to go around and to talk to people about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Now, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in 2013?
Ooh, that's a good question. As far as writing?
Yes.
Or what is the biggest lesson? You know, I don't know if this is a lesson I learned in 2013, but it's coming to a culmination in 2013. The digital market has changed everything because publishers make most of their money on actual books, and hardback books made the publishers millions of dollars. And so somebody like Stephen King, who was at Simon and Schuster, he sold millions of books, and his books, the cash cows, would pay for advances for somebody like me. And so we were getting nice advances and going on 35 city tours, and the digital world has changed all of that. And so there are a lot of people who lost contracts, a lot of not too nice things are happening, and our contracts have gone down. And I've always said the same thing happened in music. And so what they did was they weren't making any money, and then they found ringtone. And then you found out that some of them were making millions of dollars off of ringtones. Now that's kind of fading away. But I've been saying we've got to find our own ringtones. And I think last year I wrote a book called Scandalous, which is the start of Jasmine's story. And it was an ebook only, and then it was on Amazon, but it wasn't sold in the regular bookstores. And that has turned into a ringtone for me. These ebook only things, and I have a new book coming out in about 2 weeks called Murrary Xmas, Xmas, and it's a sequel to the X-Files. And so, and it's a bridge book.
Okay.
Because the X-Files was just optioned to become a movie by Malik Yoba. And so he wanted more content.
Okay.
So, because he's hoping that it'll become a TV movie and turn into a television show.
Awesome.
So, the Murrary Xmas is what I'm calling a bridge book. It's a Christmas book about the three of them who are left, and they each have to have Christmas dinner with their exes, and it's 3 disastrous dinners, and then but it's to reintroduce everybody to the characters, to just reintroduce you again, so you'll remember who they are, because the new book that comes out in June that I'm working on now is called Forever an X. Because when somebody's an ex in your life, they're forever an ex. And you can't get rid of them because
as much as you try.
Especially if you have any connection with them. If you have a child with them, no matter what, they're forever an ex. And so the bridge book of Murrary Xmas reminds you who they were, so you don't have to go back and read it. And it connects you because this book is a Christmas book, and then Forever and X picks up on New Year's Day.
Oh, we got good things to look forward to. Okay. Now, what advice would you give to our CG, our Christian girls out there?
I have a teen series called The Divine Divas. And it's so funny because you just asked the question about how do I like that Christian author label, and it's hard as the adults. My young adult books are Christian fiction, and the girls don't have any idea as they're reading. Because I wrote a book of, it's a 4-book series called The Divine Divas, and it's 4 15-year-old girls who have known each other since they were in the 3rd grade, and they form a gospel singing group called the Divine Divas to compete in like an American Idol competition. And I wanted to deal with the issues that our girls are really dealing with. Like the very first book, and so it's the 4 girls, and each of them has a story, but all 4 are in each other's story. And like the first book deals with the pressure of being 15 and boys pressuring you to have sex. And I wanted to deal with that issue from a Christian point of view because our girls know what to do, but they've never been given the tools to say no. And in each one of these books, the girls do the wrong thing because we know what the right thing is. But I wanted to show the wrong thing so that people could see the consequences of the wrong thing. And the common theme is that even though your sins are forgiven, even forgiven sins have consequences.
True.
So my message for the young girls as I was writing in this book is that we are all going through these things, but always recognize that every action, good or bad, has consequences. Good consequences or bad consequences. But nothing is just going to just disappear. On the way over here, Rashonda's husband is the vice president of student activities at Prairie View. And at homecoming, a 19-year-old girl took off all her clothes and got in a pond and started twerking. And so you see the video of all the guys, boys with their cell phones out. Forever, she's going to be on the internet. She'll be 80 years old. And it'll be forever. She'll never be able to get rid of that. And she's 19 and is not thinking about the consequences. And I just want our girls to, and it's hard at 19 to think about what's going to affect you at 25. Because, you're thinking you're going to live forever, you're invincible. But I just think, especially in today's world, we've got to start thinking more and teaching our young people about consequences. Because even forgiven sins have consequences.
I love that. I thought I was the only one that thought that way. All right, this is my last question. It's confession time. Tell us a daring confession. Doesn't matter if it has to do with writing, your personal life, doesn't matter. Give us a confession.
A confession. Well, I love to work out.
Okay.
And I've been doing the Shaun T, Insanity, and now I'm doing T25. So I work out like crazy, but I'll eat cookies and cupcakes. If I didn't eat sweets, I tell this to Rashawn all the time, I would be a size 2. And it's just crazy because you work out for hours and hours. And I have this Nike Fuel Band. I worked out like crazy. Hi, how are you? I work out like, hi.
You know who I am, don't you?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yep, I know. Okay. And I work out like crazy and I eat cupcakes. Why? That doesn't make any sense. And so I don't want anybody to know that. What else? I don't know. What else? A daring confession? I'm on Facebook so much, so everybody knows everything. Because people say to me, my God, people tell me that they don't even watch CNN. Somebody wrote last night. I wrote down all the things that the Republicans had asked President Obama for during the government. And I wrote down all the things and then what they got, which was nothing. And so somebody else, they shared it. And they said, see, this is why I don't watch the news. I just come to Victoria's Stage every day because she breaks it down. Right. And so I'm a political junkie.
Okay.
And that's in my DNA. My parents were very active in the civil rights movement. So that's just part of who I am. So on Facebook, I talk about my books. I talk about politics a lot. I talk about working out a lot, so much so that people from Shanti's Insanity uh, asked me to become a beach body coach.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, you were already coaching people on Facebook.
Right,
You're
you
like,
might as well.
That's what they were
Okay.
saying. So but I'm afraid to do it because then they're going to find out that I eat cupcakes. I mean, seriously, every day I wake up in the morning and I say, okay, no sweets today. And every day I eat sweets. I just want to go one day.
Just one.
Just one day I have cupcakes. And I just love sugar. And so I think it's a little bit of an addiction to sugar.
Okay. All right. Well, those are all my questions for today. Thank you so much for this interview. This means so much to me and so much to my blog. Just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.